here's Brodie Brazil.
You know, back when I was instructing on a regular basis, I had the opportunity to fly with a wide variety of pilots from all backgrounds and experience levels and ages. And the one thing I feel like I could do fairly well back then is gauge them on a first impression. So in this video, I'm here to share things other pilots did which gave me a good impression and also helped me kind of judge their skills before we even took off. Because the truth here is that a pilot's flying skill can often be judged before the airplane even leaves the ground. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times where you might be proven wrong based on the briefing and the pre-flight to the actual flight. But generally speaking, if you've got enough experience as a professional pilot, you kind of already know what you're sitting next to when you leave the ground. So here are 4 things you can do to better yourself in making good first impressions. Number 1, have a great awareness of the day. When you get to the airport, understand the weather situation for where you're flying, conditions for your destination as well as your departure, en route also. What's your fuel situation like? What's the mission at hand? What are you trying to accomplish today? Even as simple as a flight lesson, like what's on tap for today. Also responsibilities. Who's going to check the weather? Who's going to file the flight plan if need be? Who's going to do the pre-flight, et cetera, et cetera. And also airport operations. Once you get in the airplane, do you know how to call for taxi? Do you know how to get your clearance? Again, all of these things are being judged before the wheels even leave the ground. Okay, tip number 2 here on how to make a good impression is how the pre-flight is conducted. You really want to have a good grasp on this. Both pilots do. But again, if I'm judging, I'm seeing how the other person is responding to briefing and the pre-flight inspection of the airplane. I'm watching what they're doing, how they do the lap around the plane, what they're looking for in the pre-flight on the ramp. I want them to be efficient, but I also want them to be thorough and not rushed. I want them to follow the checklist in order, or if they don't want to do a checklist, I'm watching what they're doing to make sure they are doing everything on a checklist and that maybe they're confirming all of it afterwards. The whole do and verify thing. Information usually shared between pilots. Let's have the open conversation right to begin with. I see this, I see that. I'm making notes of this. Here are all the squawks on the airplane. And any questions sorted away. Those are all good qualities of a thorough pre-flight. So how the pre-flight is conducted, again, usually gives me a pretty good indication of the pilot I'm flying with. Okay, how about the tools of the trade and how they're actually used? I'm not saying you need to have the best iPad or the most expensive aviation headset. All I'm saying is that, do you have the proper items? Are they all easily accessible? You can usually look at a pilot's flight bag, see how it's organized, see how often they're taking things in and putting them out. I don't mean on that day, but do they know where to find everything, or are they fumbling through this? And like I said, headset, iPad, charts, documentation, even something as simple as sunglasses. Are we halfway through the flight and they're digging through the back, not paying attention because they should have had these out already? So the tools that they have at their disposal and how exactly are they used? And then last but not least here, this is a huge one for me. Before the plane even leaves the ground, we've already seen a lot of radio work by a pilot. And there are a lot of things here. There's a plentiful list of things I value on the radio, like knowing what frequencies you're supposed to be on, what comes next, knowing the proper radio calls, knowing proper terminology, brevity and clarity on the radio. And also, I mean, this one goes without saying, but this is a large first impression maker here. How about a sterile cockpit? Know when to have the conversation and know when to be quiet because we're listening for something. We're listening for the TRACON controller to get back to us with flight following instructions. It's really, really important to know when to listen to the radio, how high to have it turned up volume-wise. A sterile cockpit can go a long way as part of your radio work, something that you may not even think about. So, look, you want to make a good first impression, no matter if you're flying with a friend who's also a pilot or a CFI or a flight examiner. These 4 tips will help you overall do the right things and make a good impression. Let me know if I missed anything or if you have any other additional advice in the comments section below.